Welcome to episode 22 of OTD, your daily dose of soccer history by 17 Laws Guy. It's November 22nd, 2022, and we are at the World Cup in Qatar. Lusail Stadium is a wall of sky blue and white, almost 90,000 inside, and it feels most of singing for Argentina. Lionel Messi, 35 years old and somehow still carrying a nation, leads out La Albiceleste. On the other side, Saudi Arabia, ranked well below the Giants, playing in a part of the world they know, and with a French coach who has been plotting this night for months. Argentina on a 36-match unbeaten run, champions of South America after lifting the Copa América at the Maracanã in 2021, and winners of the Finalissima against Italy at Wembley in June 2022. It's the longest unbeaten streak ever, and one short of Italy's world record of 37. They're one of the favorites to win the World Cup with Messi as captain. But 90 minutes later, the scoreboard will read Argentina 1, Saudi Arabia 2, and the tournament will feel completely different. To feel the full jolt of Lusail, we need to rewind through a decade of Argentine hope and passion. For all of Argentina's soccer history, World Cup winners in 1978 and 86, runners-up in 1930, 90 and 2014, 14 Copa América titles, there's a whole generation who grew up with a very specific storyline. Messi just can't win trophies with the national team. From 2007 to 16, Argentina lost 4 major finals with him on the pitch. Copa America 2007, the 2014 World Cup final, then Copa America in 15 and 16. Messi even briefly quit the national team after the shootout loss to Chile in 16 before coming back. Copa America 2021 finally flips the script. Argentina beat Brazil 1-0 in the Maracanã, their first major senior title since 1993, and Messi's first with the national team. In 22, they crushed Italy 3-0 in the Finalissima between European and South American champions. The unbeaten run rolls on. Scaloni's team looks balanced, and the weight on Messi's shoulders seems lighter. So when they enter the pitch in Lusail to face Saudi Arabia, the story feels almost pre-written. Open with a routine win, ease into the tournament and gradually build towards the knockout rounds. Saudi Arabia's story is very different. They are in one sense veterans. 22 is their 6th World Cup. They debuted in 94, reached the last 16 and beat Belgium 1-0 in Washington, with Said Al-Wairan's famous solo goal from inside his own net. But they're also a mid-tier team in global terms. They suffered heavy defeats, the 8-0 loss to Germany in 2002, the 5-0 opening night defeat to Russia in 18, and are qualified more often than not thanks to Asia's expanding allocation of places. By November 22, Argentina ranks as one of the top 3 teams in the world. Saudi Arabia sit way below. In betting and data models, Argentina's chance of victory is widely put above 80%. Pre-match estimates give Saudi Arabia just an 8.7 chance, making a Saudi win the least likely World Cup upset ever. On paper, this is a mismatch. A team on a 36-game unbeaten run, led by one of the greatest players in history, against a side made up mostly of domestic league players from a confederation that rarely goes deep at World Cups. And for 45 minutes, the script seems to hold. Argentina start fast. Messi scores from the penalty shot in the 10th minute after a VAR check for a shirt pull in the box. They repeatedly slice through Saudi Arabia's audacious high defensive line, but 3 more Argentine goals chalked off for offside. Lautaro Martinez twice, Messi once, as the Saudis execute an offside trap with almost absurd aggression. By halftime, Argentina have been caught offside 10 times, more than in any World Cup match of theirs since records began. It looks to most viewers like a matter of time. Argentina have had around 2/3 of the ball, more shots and an expected goals edge that suggests a comfortable win. Then, in the space of 5 minutes after the interval, everything turns. In the 48th minute, a simple ball forward catches Argentina flat. Saleh Al-Sheri shrugs off Cristian Romero and slides a low finish across Emiliano Martinez and inside the far post, 1-1. Before Argentina can settle, Salem Al-Dawsari produces one of the goals of the tournament. He collects the ball off the edge of the box, shifts it onto his right foot, and curls a shot into the top corner. Martinez gets fingertips to it, but not enough. 53 minutes played. Saudi Arabia 2-1 up. The final half hour is a siege. Argentina throw on Julian Alvarez, Enzo Fernandez, and then Paulo Dybala. Messi drops deeper, tries to orchestrate everything. Nicolas Tagliafico sees a close-range effort saved by Mohamed Al-Owais. Cross after cross is headed away. Saudi centre-back Hassan Al-Tambakti produces a heroic sliding block on Messi that becomes an instant meme. When the whistle goes, Lusail is a sea of green and white celebration. Argentina's 36-match unbeaten run is over. For the first time since 1990, they have lost a World Cup opener. The reaction back home is exactly as volcanic as you'd expect. Argentine media swing between fury and fatalism. All ghosts are summoned. Cameroon in 1990, the lost finals, the idea that Messi is destined to suffer in sky blue and white. Inside the camp, though, Lionel Scaloni and his staff take a different line. This is hard to take, but we must move on, he tells reporters. We have to win the next 2 games. And quietly, he changes the team. Against Mexico, Alexis McAllister comes into the 11 for Papu Gomez, giving the midfield more energy and balance. Enzo Fernandez, who came off the bench against Saudi Arabia, scores a gorgeous curler to seal a 2-0 win. By the end of the group stage, Julian Alvarez has taken Lautaro Martinez's starting spot. The team is recentered around Messi, plus a hard-running support cast of McAllister, Enzo, De Paul, and Alvarez. Argentina beat both Mexico and Poland 2-0 to top Group C, then edged past Australia, crossed Croatia 3-0 in the semi-final, and finally win an epic final against France on penalties in one of the greatest World Cup finals of all times. In other words, the worst possible beginning becomes the crucible that hardens a world champion in Argentina. So where does Argentina 1, Saudi Arabia 2 actually sit amongst the biggest shocks in international football? If you go by probability models, it is, quite literally, number 1. The estimate of an 8.7 Saudi chance makes it the least likely World Cup win ever, just ahead of the 9.5 chance ahead of USA's 1-0 shock win against England in 1950, also known as the Miracle of Belo Horizonte, that for more than 60 years was the World Cup upset. England, back in FIFA's tent, were tournament favourites back then, the US team semi-professional, but the ball didn't care about probabilities. And stack these against other classics in World Cup history. Hungary 2, West Germany 3 in the 1954 final. Maybe more a narrative shock than a statistical one. Hungary were unbeaten in 4 years and had thrashed West Germany in the group, but by final, the Germans had improved and the gap wasn't as enormous as folklore suggests. North Korea 1, Italy 0. Middlesbrough in 1966, as we briefly mentioned in yesterday's OTD. Debutants knocking out 2-time champions. Retrospective lists put it just below the USA versus England tier, but still among the great shocks. Cameroon 1, Argentina 0 in 1990. The holders beaten in the opening game by an African side playing with 10 men for the last 25 minutes. Again, one of the all-time upsets, and many journalists still rank it in their top 3. And then Senegal 1, France 0 in 2002. Champions beaten by World Cup debutants in the opener. Some have this as number 1 on a narrative list of upsets, with Cameroon versus Argentina and North Korea versus Italy just behind, and Saudi Arabia versus Argentina at number 4. If you widen the lens beyond World Cup finals, you can find other shockers, like Paraguay defeating Brazil by 2-0 at the 1963 Copa America, and probably the largest shock ever, Norway beating reigning Olympic champions Great Britain by 3-1 at the 1920 Olympic Games. But we will surely talk about these in future episodes of OTD. But back to Qatar on this day in 2022. If you combine everything, the size of the gap in rankings, the pre-tournament expectations, the fact that Argentina were full strength and on a record unbeaten run, and that this was the first group game with everything to lose, Argentina 1, Saudi Arabia 2 sits right at the very top. The twist, of course, is that unlike England in 1950 or France in 2002, Argentina didn't crumble under the shock. Like Spain after losing to Switzerland in 2010, they used the group stage slap in the face as a reset moment, only this time the slap was harder and the comeback even more dramatic. So what did November 22 actually change? For Saudi Arabia, it gave them a night that will live forever, greater in global resonance than Al-Owairan's run against Belgium in 1994. And a reminder that a team from outside the usual power blocks can still rip off the script on a World Cup stage. For Argentina, it turned the World Cup from a coronation into a survival story. The defeat blew up the margin for error, forced Scaloni to reshape his 11, and, if you listen to the players, tighten the group around Messi rather than breaking them apart. When they finally lifted the trophy 4 weeks later, the footage from Lusail of Saudis celebrating and Argentines staring into space felt like the necessary first chapter, not a glitch. And for the rest of us, it was a reminder that in international football, even when the data is screaming 90% versus 10%, the beautiful game can still serve up an upset. Or as the old adage says, that's the way the ball bounces. That's all for episode 22 of OTD, the day Saudi Arabia sprung the shock in Lusail, Argentina's unbeaten run died, and a World Cup winning team was forced to reinvent itself on the fly. If you got memories, stats, or favorite upsets to stack against this one, email us at otd@17lawsguy.com. Subscribe and leave us a 5-star review so more World Cup history nerds can find us. Tomorrow, November 23, we head back to the Premier League in 1996 and one of football's straightest cameos. Ali Dia, the supposed cousin of George Weah, who signed for Southampton, came off the bench and was substituted. How did the hoax happen? Who saw through it? And what does it say about the game's growing pains in the 1990s? Don't miss it.